I'm seeing an indication that it is.
Yes, I just got a message that it was being live streamed. It's there is a little bit of a delay before it actually starts. So
Okay.
that's what I'm watching for.
Any sign that we are?
And the lag is always a little longer than I expect it to be, but I think we're good. It does seem as if I did get the message that it was live streaming.
Yep, I did as well.
And
by the way, if anybody else got that message, I didn't realize last meeting you can click that to make it go away. I thought it was Val's responsibility to do that, and I put up with it for the whole meeting. Everybody, I'm going to go ahead and declare open the meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission of the Village of New Paltz, meeting on Monday, February 14th. And we are starting just a couple of minutes after 7:02 by my guests as well as commission. We're just this evening. We've had two commissioners unable to get this thing and was not able to. With that in mind,
you're breaking up.
Should we go straight to the minutes? Okay, that's not. How about right now, Steve?
It's a little broken up. You're frozen.
I'm going to change my channels. Okay.
I think it's all that love that's in the air.
I hope we can get Tom back. Oh.
Is this any better? Can anyone?
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
That's much better.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't get an indication. With everybody's permission, let's go ahead and look at the minutes. Are there any suggestions for changes?
I think the minutes look great, just as always. And I don't see anything that should be added or changed.
Let me know if anyone needs me to scroll through them at all.
I move that the minutes be accepted as presented.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous? Great. Val, thank you again for making this part of the meeting. As Camilla's comment suggested, it's always such an easy part of the meeting. Thank you. That's very. It looks like we probably are not going to have reports from Trustee Wheeler Murray. Has anyone heard by chance about anything about the proposed local laws that we've been watching?
No.
I don't have anything to add. And as for the firehouse, my information is totally anecdotal and casual, but it really seems to be going along pretty well. I think they have windows in now and quite a lot of brickwork.
Yes, I drove by the other day and it's definitely looking like it's almost finished. So.
I believe he said, and it's just in the minutes, but I think he was talking about an April or May soft opening with hard opening or formal opening to follow. And it looks like that might actually happen. So that's great.
Probably permitting, right?
Yeah. It looks like we have Mr. Leibel on. Keith, are you hearing us and seeing us okay?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. We were expecting AJ to join the meeting? Is that your understanding?
I'm hopeful that he can. He did have a prior engagement he's trying to get out of. It's another meeting. Hopefully it ends swiftly enough for him to join.
Okay.
If he misses, he is obviously apologetic to speak on his behalf, but
Sure, absolutely. Why don't we do this? We're actually a little ahead of schedule, so let's not open our discussion until 7:15 or so. And with your patience, we'll just go to a couple of other bits of business and then circle right back. Is that okay?
absolutely fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. So everybody, I think item 2, that's long and involved, so let's push that back. Steve, do you happen to have any reports from Huguenot Street?
When I saw that on the agenda, I looked around, but no, it's been actually pretty quiet. Haven't seen anything, no changes at the Jameson House and the Reformed Church. I've been walking by. I've seen no evidence of anything happening. So they're still waiting for their suppliers.
Okay, which is to say the ramp is still there. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks for pinch hitting on the Huguenot Street report. Camilla, is there anything on item 4?
Well, I will resume my discussions with Ingrid as the weather is improving, and it will be possible to maybe start work soon. And I've been playing around with the Benjamin Moore app that I uploaded some pictures and tried different paint colors. So I'm working on that, and hope to share my vision with Ingrid and see what she thinks.
That's great.
But there is not
on that app, are you able to, can you save when you do a test using the app? Is there a method for saving it?
I think I'm kind of learning how to do it, because every time I did something, I seem to have lost it. So I'm just hopeful that I will be able to actually capture something. Maybe I can just take a screenshot. That would be
Sure.
probably the best or the surest way, unless I find the ins and outs of the program. I'm not very good with technology, so it's a bit.
Okay. No, that's great. Well, thank you. You're right that we're probably getting quite close to the point when, a contractor can be engaged and that can move forward. Should we go ahead and look at the press release? Val, do you have that handy?
I do. Camilla, this is the revised version.
Yes, that's correct. And I didn't include the part where the pictures could be seen in our archives, because I'm really not sure when the archives will be complete.
Better not to,
So I
yeah.
left it out completely, not to cause any confusion.
I think that's wise. There's still so much time, Camilla, to, if that's really ready for public viewing, we've got months before anybody would ask. I thought it was great. I didn't see any problem. At one point, I thought there was an extra space, but I think even that's been cleaned up.
That's possible that there is. I tend to make mistakes, but I spoke to Pat, although she's not able to attend the meeting tonight, but she liked the press release proposal and gave her.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
I
think it looks
appreciate
really nice.
the addition of the promotion of social justice and equality. That was great.
Yeah,
I thought it might be a bit more of a challenge for the artists and maybe get out of their comfort zones a little bit, or just try a different approach. And perhaps this will engage younger people as well, younger artists.
I think it's a
who are
great idea.
Active in this area.
It could also be a signal that we would be interested in seeing artwork depicting the Oliver House,
Yes.
you know, without explicitly saying that. Steve, did you see anything that needs to be corrected?
No, I think it looks great.
Okay, so I don't think we really need to vote on that, but just to say, Camille, I think whenever you feel it's time to get on that release cycle.
I think perhaps in the soonest edition of the paper, I'm not sure when that's going to be, but if we can just send it in as soon as possible, and then they can put it in the next edition of it.
Okay, I'll take care of that.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Val.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Val.
Yeah.
That's good. So Val. And Camilla, how about printed copies? I think in years past, just a limited number at the art shops in town.
Yes, and we put some in the library as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure the flyers were very effective though, so maybe to save money, I might just make a few and not as many as in the past.
Okay.
And I've sent out a call for artists to our mailing list, which I do every year before the exhibit. So everyone who had participated in the past already knows.
Right. And that's probably our best way forward, is just to keep that community informed. That sounds great. Camille, I was going to say, we could also, it looks like if you removed the press release part and you just started with call for artists, I think you could get 2 to a page. And that means that we could easily print at Village Hall. We could just run, I don't know, 20 copies to make 40 half-sheet ads, and there's no hassle to that.
Sure.
So if you think that's worth it, we could maybe even ask if they have colored paper.
Okay. But I really don't mind. I can, I can go to PDQ and even pay for it myself. I mean, it's just a few copies. It's not.
Well, I mean, every year we pay for the copier, so.
That's true.
Yeah, but as you wish, whatever's the path of least
Would I be
resistance.
allowed to? Is the public allowed to go inside the Village Hall now?
I don't
No.
think so. Only by appointment. I mean, we could see that things change pretty quickly. I don't know. I really don't know what lies ahead, but with mask restrictions dropping and just a general new attitude, I think that probably fairly soon that's going to change. And Camilla, I think that implicitly you said no real report on the archives.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep that on the agenda, but no particular rush on that. Let's see. Let's do one more, and then we'll circle back to Mannheim Muse. Val, did you have the revised AC installation?
I do. This is one more revision in the process of happening. I just wanted to let you all know that we did there are some typos you'll see in here that have been corrected, but what hasn't yet been done is what you see in blue as links or email links are not yet live. So that's the last thing to be done. But the illustrations have been enlarged. We've still kept it to 3 pages, but they're popping out a little bit more than they were originally, perhaps, maybe even a little too much in a couple of cases, but I think they're way clearer, and the text, the captions are much easier to read than they were in the original version.
Here, here. Yeah. Oh, that's really good, though. That's much, much clearer.
So it is still the 3 pages. Once the links are live, I'll be able to get this posted on the village website. And anybody who wants paper copies, I have some of the original paper copies, but you may not need them at all. But anybody who does, just let me know and I'll make some more.
Okay. And the one that's posted would be printable as well.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'll post it as a PDF, so anyone who could would be able to.
Val, would you, when the last T's are crossed and I's are dotted on this, down at the bottom, let's indicate the date of February 2022.
Okay.
Just so that in future we can distinguish sort of version 1 and version 1.1.
Yep.
Thank you very much. That looks a lot clearer. The conversion to PDF just kind of lost a lot of the detail around those drawings, which turned out to be a little too small anyway.
Well, we ended up having to basically pour this text into InDesign, the program that was used to create the illustrations, and then re-PDF it.
Got it. Got it.
Okay.
I think we can slip in one super quick one, which is item number 8 is our budget report. We're at just over 60% of the budget expended, at just about 67% of the year. So we're still within budget, which is happy news. And why don't we pause there? And it is now just going on 7:20. Let's circle back to our discussion of Mannheim Muse with Keith Jr. and Senior Leibel. Welcome to both of you.
Welcome.
All right, I'm
Thank you.
back. How we doing?
Very good. Nice to see you both. We also have 2 interested parties, Susan Denton and Jackie Brownstein, are on the Zoom call as well, and they are interested in the topic, and so we'll be glad to hear from them as well. Keith, I think we all understand that at a certain point in your discussions with the planning board, it emerged that because you're completely affordable, you have a waiver for more density. Could you just walk us through when that happened and what you learned, and then what happened after that?
Yeah, Senior, why don't you take the lead on that one?
Sure. So at the last planning board meeting, counsel for the planning board just brought up that there, as a 100% affordable project, there was a density bonus available to us, and it appears that we had an excess parking and the capacity to raise the unit count.
Okay.
So I said, okay. So we circled around to get some consensus from the UAC board if they felt more units were appropriate, and they said yes. We circled with the village and just asked some general questions of that board if they were open, and then we wanted to circle back around with this board that would be primarily, I believe, concerned with the architectural elements if we did that. So we tried to create, I believe, some designs that are zoning compliant, and we feel like they're probably the best go architecturally that we could do, trying to sort of mirror the facade over at that new building that was put up at the college, so that the mansard style roof would have slate or like slate roofing of that color. And we would sort of try to mirror that style for the top of the building, so it would sort of blend. It's tough with the renderings because they don't really depict exactly, like virtually, what it would look like, but our goal is to mimic
like
that
that.
building across the street.
Mhm.
So what you see now is among the architectural drawings, there is a site plan and this. So I don't know, is this one more useful to you?
Well, that's the gable end. So we wanted to try and tie in the building. If you're looking at this parcel, the building to the right that Seakill built, and across the street,
Mhm.
the building that the college put up. And we sort of caucused internally as to how to try and do that. And so you've got, the gable end, which sort of would mirror some of the siding effects of the Seakill apartment building. And then the mansard roof line would mirror the slate sort of facade you've got in that. I don't know if it's a modern, I don't know what type of architectural style that is, but that style building across the street by matching the roof color. And up in the mansard, there's some different window types depending on what look the board thought was better. We haven't presented to the planning board yet. We wanted to get your input first.
Yeah.
And then go to the board from there.
Okay, that's very helpful to me. Camilla and Steve, is there anything you wanted to follow up with or ask so far?
Let me know if you'd like me to change what you're seeing on the screen.
Not at this moment.
The only thing I would say is that it's very hard to argue with adding more affordable housing, even if that means such a drastic change from the original design plans. But, we can certainly discuss why things are happening this way. And I don't know if we could maybe get input from our other colleagues who are not able to be here tonight. I'm sure they would have
Yes, I would hope.
more opinion, before we say anything definite.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, we're unfortunately working with the smallest number of commissioners, and it's very unusual that we're not at full strength, but it just didn't happen this time. I think Camilla's raised a really good point, and this may be of interest to Susan and Jackie. In our prior discussion about the project, we uniformly recognize that the need for affordable senior housing is a real one. So much so that I think we looked at this project differently than we might have for a standard commercial project, because it's going to involve the demolition of a structure with some claim on architectural interest in the community, not a landmarked building, but a building nonetheless that we unfortunately have too few left. But our conclusion, Susan and Jackie, was that the demand, the need for senior housing at an affordable level is a compelling one. And so I think, to Camilla's point, we probably can move very quickly through that part of this discussion, whether this is a community need. And I wondered if either of you wanted to talk on that topic as opposed to the architectural questions. Jackie, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your recognition that we're in dire need of affordable housing, in particular, senior affordable housing. And we are so pleased that Keith could have gotten the extra tax credit in order to be able to include additional units. And I know that's not the purview exactly of your committee, but I feel it's an attractive look where seniors would like to live and so desperately need that kind of housing. I know historical preservation is about buildings, but there's also the preservation of our senior population, which I can speak to. I've been in this community about 54 years and are part of that population, and have many friends who can't afford to live in New Paltz any longer. And they are a very active part of this community, by the way, involved in all the kind of volunteer work that you would expect from a lively senior community, but they're being priced out. And I am so delighted to hear that that is something you're concerned about. We're trying to go to any of the planning meetings that are associated with the project and say how much we support the establishment and the development of this kind of housing. So I want to thank you for that consideration. I really do.
Of
And
course.
I'd like to say thank you so much for your support of the idea of affordable housing, the recognition that it's so needed, and we are late to the party in a lot of ways. People are in great need. The addition of these units, which brings the unit count up to 51, I believe, means that it'll be a much healthier budget for the complex. There'll be a rental manager. There'll be an on-site maintenance person who lives there. It'll be just a very well taken care of, good, safe, decent housing for our seniors. So we're very excited and have enjoyed very much being kept in the loop on this by the Leibolds. And yeah, that's it.
Susan, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Keith, I had remembered also 51 units is the current proposal. That's up from, I think, 32 or 36 was the original.
Yeah, correct. I
So-
believe it was 30, 33 was the original.
33. Okay, yeah, so that's a substantial increase, and I think speaks to something that everybody on this call is cognizant of this communal need. Could we hear a little bit more? So is there a tipping point where 51 units makes it either mandatory or economically possible to have that rental manager and that on-site maintenance person?
Sure. So the budgets, by the way, the budgets have been shared with UAC and the town board, the village board. And our intent here ultimately is to put this in the ownership of a charitable housing organization. 32 units is the absolute minimum of viability to provide a part-time manager, a part-time super, and have the highest of the rent levels that are available. The projects become really fiscally viable and sort of, let me use the word healthy, at a point where you're over 50 units, you can have more of a full-time super. We actually now can provide some units at a lower price point, and gave the community the option. It's a balance between what you can afford to pay tax-wise and the rent levels you would like, because the income becomes so marginalized at some point. You can only do what you can do if you're charging half market on the rents. So we're also kind of straddled by zoning compliance in that area as to building height. Certainly, having a gabled roof is a different architectural style, but unfortunately, zoning caps us at it puts you to this type of roof design. So we offered several options. We actually played with 5 or 6, and we got it to 3 that I think are viable option depending on kind of what you like to see from a visual aesthetic, and wanted to present them here because I realize all of this is an ask of this board. And I just want to assure you of the public benefit being provided by this, that it's not a sort of, in any way, any claw by a market rate project or, This is a community effort, and we're all trying to achieve a goal. And the architectural style doesn't matter to us. We would like to be able to get some solar, some renewable energy on the roof system of these buildings. And I would like to be able to get the compressors for the air source heat pumps off the ground so that the grade level is very clean and polished, and put them up on the roof system. But I'll have to work through that at the planning board level and see, sort of what's tolerable for them. And, they might actually send us to zoning just for a little architectural relief so we can do that. But that's the plan for this building. To have the renewables there to help the O&M budget over time. So the building has well-funded reserves, well-funded maintenance, and we can provide, the services that we need to operate the building. And then I'd like to put together a resident board, maybe to have some yearly input into how we spend the funds we have to provide what the community needs to stay, healthy and viable.
Thank you. That's really helpful. One of the things, my day job is across the street on the SUNY campus. And one of the things that's gone through my mind since we started this discussion is the opportunities for part-time work, internships, training for sociology majors or education majors who could just walk across the street and we hope be helpful to the senior community. And that's something, as you think about a resident board, I would hope that really quickly that board would recognize the talent pool that's across the street and look for synergy wherever possible.
Funny, I was more thinking the seniors there could help tutor the undergraduates.
Yeah, sorry, I should get out of my I think that's an excellent idea, and I'm laughing at my own oversight, but that's absolutely right. No, very good.
Listen, I might be a little sideways as a company, but unless you have silver hair, you're not running one of my big builds. There is no substitution for life experience.
Absolutely.
And I actually thought in doing this, what a great wealth of knowledge and life experience that the college could leverage to help our young people today learn how to do healthy debate and healthy discussion on issues. And as well as, there is a synergy where it could go both ways, but I probably said enough.
No, I think you offered a really good corrective to what I just said. Synergy is what we're after. I think that's great. Yes, go ahead, Jackie.
May I say something? Thank you so much for including us in this conversation, by the way. That doesn't always happen, and I appreciate it greatly. Just to say that, that many college campuses are integrating senior living spaces on campuses precisely because of the synergy that Keith was talking about. The idea of students and seniors learning from one another, because I can see students coming in with computer skills, seniors being able to tutor in many areas, but that synergy is often, not often, but has been, there's a model of establishing that on campuses. And this is almost as good as being on the campus. Yeah. So I just wanted to add that since this was the discussion.
I think that's a really good point. And geographically, it's closer than many of those communities that you referred to.
Yeah.
I think we all agree that this is a worthy project. Maybe we should devote our attention now to where we are architecturally. My understanding, and Val, you could maybe help by scrolling backwards. My understanding from Andy Willingham is that only the dormer shed stays within a height allowance, and the other two variations would require a height variance. Are we correct? And
Yep, that's correct.
do you know how many feet you'd be asking for in options 2 and 3?
Yeah, I think we're roughly asking for between 4 and 4.5 feet.
Okay. And
And
would that,
yeah, go ahead.
would that 4 or 4.5 feet give you the space for the AC units and solar array?
Yes, it would. It would help screen it as well. So
Okay.
yeah, that would be a big benefit.
So would that be, do you know what the parapet height would end up being? Val, do you mind scrolling down to the next one? Sorry to be so bossy. There's no nice.
That's okay. No, I appreciate the guidance.
Like in the old days. Next slide. Somebody else. Keith, do you know what the parapet height would be on the Slate and Peaks?
I
I
think the
think-
parapet height would probably, yeah, go ahead, Dad.
Isn't it around 30 inches, 32 inches?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it depends on the insulation on the roof as we work through the energy modeling and thickness of any applied rooftop insulation. You'd roughly have about 30 inches, possibly 4 feet, depends somewhere in there.
Okay.
So the interior layout, the elevation of the third floor system doesn't change. So if you look at the top of the window and you look at image one has, or option 1 has really no parapet. And you
Right.
can see how close it is to that top of window. And then if you scroll to image 2, you see the elevation you have beyond the top of window. And that's really the architectural, that's roof, that's over the roof. So that's providing some screening for being able to move those compressors from grade level up onto the roof on a rail system, provide some visual cover for a solar. We probably want to do solar thermal for hot water, as the state has a all electric initiative now, and solar thermal preheating is by far the most effective way to produce hot water when it comes to solar. So we would do that. And again, you might see a little tag here or there of a top of a solar something. The downside to having that cover is, of course, the shading the parapet would cause on the southeast side. So we lose probably a row of panels, which it's not the end all be all. It's really just a compromise. And what architecturally this board, I go back and forth. I like the massing of the slate roof because it would sort of mimic what's across the street a little bit. And then, but it makes it more dominant in the elevation. So,
And if I may jump in here, Matt, can I share my screen? I have a couple of live photos of this exact condition and what we're trying to mimic with this image up next to a slate dormer with these windows and peaks. I just didn't know, do I have that ability? And would you mind?
I'm honestly not sure, but I can stop sharing and you can see if you have something that allows you to do that.
That would certainly be.
Would it be helpful? Would you like me to do
Yes,
that?
please.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
Please share. Screen. Okay, just let me know when you see it.
oh, there you go.
Here it is.
Yep.
So this up here is what we are trying to mimic in accuracy. And then this is the science building right across the street. And this is us.
That's very helpful.
And so in the rendering, you'll notice, right, we have horizontal siding here. It should be vertical, right? Some aspects are missed. It's difficult to, it's so real.
The idea, I think, was to blend again what we've got as our neighbor at Seakill and what we've got at the college next door. The dormer roof provides a window type similar to the college windows where they have like an awning, which is like a sunfly mid-window height there, which is why I sort of went with that dormer element. But having a live photo, I felt better represented. Oh, okay, this looks better to my mind than just a rendering. It's hard to really visualize the rendering.
Right.
But that's literally the look we would like to go for. And the question is, do you prefer the dormer with having a parapet over it, or would you prefer more of a shed roof design?
Stephen, Camilla, I sort of know not my thoughts, but we haven't spoken, and we're actually not supposed to speak before the public meeting. So,
well, I think this building will fit in fine across from the campus. It's certainly larger, but I think it's sized as well as you can on this space. And I think that what you want to put on the roof is worth the extra couple of feet for the solar, for any of the heating systems you can put up there. I think it would be. I think it'll be fine.
I agree with Steve, and I just would like to thank both Mr. Libos for such a thoughtful project, and it really looks like a lot of effort went into these designs, and trying to do the best for our community. So that is really admirable, and thank you.
and I'm basically in the same position. I'll be honest that without your explanation, my first thought was, we don't have mansard roofs in New Paltz. Where is this coming from? But you're absolutely right that it's across the street from that wall of slate. And I think that probably my inclinations are moving toward the image that we're seeing now, the slate and peak style. I think that there's a real benefit to getting those mechanicals up on the roof. As Mr. Leibelt Sr. said, just a cleaner look. And I don't know if there's a maintenance edge, but it would seem to me there would be a maintenance edge to just getting them away from foot traffic and wheelchair traffic and delivery traffic, just everything that can go wrong when things are near walkways. I wondered if in the Slate and Peak design, do we get any more, do we get a higher ceiling for the third floor? I was thinking about the comfort of the residents on the third floor and just, assuming that that's going to be the hottest floor in the summers. Is there any advantage to the Slate and Peak?
If the planning board wants to have us go for a height variance for actual ceiling height, certainly, well, let me say that in these Energy Star Plus buildings, that heat bleed up is a lot less than you might think, just because of how the energy raters segment each unit. There certainly will be some from solar gain. That is the advantage of the shed roof design, is that it protrudes over the window and provides sun shading in the warm climate, as where the little dormers here do not.
Right.
So the answer to your question is yes, they will be warmer. It won't be like a conventional building though, because of the construction requirements. Every unit is literally caulk sealed off and put a blower door test on from the next. So there's very little in the way of heat bleed up. And you also have mechanical fresh air, which is triple HEPA filtered, pressurized into the hallways. So you've got that constant exhaust of air and the replacement with preconditioned fresh air from the exterior. All that to say, it would be nice. unfortunately, the code drives us to this mansard design to make it qualify as a half story. And there are certain height restrictions that I wanted to keep the core building to.
Mhm.
If you'd like to recommend that the planning board, concede a foot, that's fine. It just makes the parapet shorter by a foot because you've raised the ceiling height up.
Right.
So then either you raise the parapet up or you lose a foot of coverage, and then you'll start to see elements show over that parapet more and more.
Yes, good point. Good
Yeah.
point. Do you recall what the planned ceiling height is on the third? I guess they would be uniformly all the same.
8 feet. It's an 8
feet.
foot per floor in order to make the height requirements. Yeah.
Okay.
Normally, just so you know, we do a 9 foot just to provide that feeling of openness. I just didn't have the available height by code to do that.
Got it. Colleagues, I think my inclination is to recommend the slate and peak style. I think getting the mechanicals into that parapet space is going to be a real positive. I also think in terms of design, it more closely does, or more nearly does what is intended, which is to complement the building across the street. I totally get the architectural challenge of trying to that modern building across the street and that traditional building to the south. And I think this design is doing that. Stephen, Camilla, how do you feel about what we recommend?
I agree,
agree.
Tom. Yeah.
Both agree?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that, it almost feels to me like if you're going for a variance, then maybe do some asking, do some thinking about what would happen if you got a little more ceiling height, but retain that minimum of 30 inches. Maybe we really want to try for more so that the mechanicals are well hidden. I actually don't know what the solar arrays that I'm familiar with tilt at about a 45-degree angle, which seems to me like, they would fit pretty comfortably in 30 inches. I don't know if you have any specific wisdom or experience on that.
We would design it in and then go from there. You could do them vertically or horizontally. You can also do a helix style. I do know the compressors have to sit 2 feet up off the roof, and they are about 32 inches tall, but they'll be mid-roof. So your eye, unless you're up high in the air, you really won't be able to see them from the road or the ground. We would cluster them towards the middle.
Okay.
So my goal is to see what we can see what the planning board wants to, how they want to proceed, and then design those roof elements based on the parapet height that they'll give us.
Mhm.
I know they have limits as to how much beyond the required code that the ZBA has allowed, and we don't want to set precedents. So we'll see where it goes. And our goals are aligned. What you've expressed and what we would like to do actually match. I haven't been there yet. I wanted to come here first and then go to the planning board with some guidance from you.
We appreciate it very much. This truly is how it should work. And we thank you both for proceeding in that spirit. I think that we can be helpful in that. Clearly they're going to want to hear from us, and what I'm hearing from my colleagues and what I'm feeling is that the design that we're currently looking at seems to be the right one. We might just go back and look to see about the interrupted versus non-interrupted. So I guess that would mean, Val, if you could retake screen sharing.
Yeah, unless Keith has an image for
Or
that.
Keith, if you have it easily, that
I did. I'm sorry. I
No,
just
that's
kicked-
okay.
I didn't think of
Try
that.
again.
We'll go back to Val. This is the interrupted.
I'm sorry. Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
And then the non-interrupted is basically the skirt of the mansard just continues across. I'm just not sure. I guess I'd love to hear from Steve and Camilla. I think that this sort of makes it a little more top heavy because it's not interrupted. Camilla, go ahead.
That was my feeling too. I was leaning towards the interrupted version, number 2.
I think the interrupted as well.
It's a little lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about where it's interrupted? If we can bridge the windows together and maybe do a slightly larger single mansard as an element there. I kind of stared at that and we just couldn't do another image. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't think I followed. I followed everything up until there. Could you
So you have
describe?
sure, you have an interrupted version that we're looking at now, but in between the windows, see how the mansard comes down with roofing? What if we were to
Yes.
omit that and make it a larger panel? And then you could take the reverse gables and combine them into maybe a larger element just in 3 or 4 places down the down the roof. I started looking at it. I don't want to vacillate. We can just
No, I'd
design
like
for forever.
Getting rid of that mansard might improve it.
Yeah, that would just break up the monotony.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where we would be just glad to stick with you for as long as that process takes to give you another set of eyes. Could I ask, were you inclining toward the interrupted, irrespective
Yes.
of what? So I think we've
Yeah.
got some agreement there that the top heaviness of the uninterrupted probably is not desirable when we have an option. Would it help just to offer whenever you feel like you've gotten to the next step of design to come back and we'll look again and give you another set of eyes and another set of opinions?
Well, I don't know if we can design on the fly. So the state has decided there's only 1 funding round this year rather than 2, and it's about to open up in a few weeks. So I need to get the process as far along as we can so that we can try and score well and possibly get funded this year, which would mean the project could start in the fall versus kicking the can till next February. And so I'm going to ask if we can, if we'd like to be able to move the ball and then somehow try and work this one element. We just work it out as a sidebar informally so we can move forward with planning. And I think it's just as simple as doing a sectional rendering of that little piece right there and seeing which you like better.
And
And my son will probably want to kill me for saying it.
No, I'm already, so we're talking, why do I always have to be the bearer of bad? So I'm watching the pattern we're discussing, And unfortunately, those windows are separated because that's where the unit demising wall lands between two adjacent apartments. So you
Yeah,
could
but we would
still,
just run, we could just run the siding up in between them and combine
Oh,
the gable at the top.
no,
It would
correct.
have, yeah. We'd have to change the pitch of the gable so that it finished up at the same elevation.
Right, I just thought you
Uh,
meant connecting the windows. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
misunderstood. Right,
That's okay.
that would be fine.
I'd be interested to see what the effect of that gable pitch would be. I'm not sure that sounds like a solution, but seeing is believing. I think
It's not going to affect the layouts at all. So
Yeah,
it's
no.
something we could change right up to the last minute of construction. So if we have consensus on the reverse gable, if we can just play around with this detail as a sidebar to
Yep.
get the best look on the elevation. We're happy to do that with you guys.
Yeah,
I think that sounds like a good way forward. We've got a lot of consensus. I mean, I think we've agreed that the design that we're looking at, generally speaking, is the superior one. We have some options. We've also got the question of whether that variance will be granted. I mean, we could be back to 0 if it's not. But I think we can be your allies in that, in making that a pretty strong recommendation.
It's much easier to ask for an architectural relief for architectural reasons than it will be for actual occupancy height.
Mhm. Okay. That's helpful too. Colleagues, does this sound like a path forward?
Yes.
It'll be a recommendation for, why don't we, for the sake of cleanliness and time, we're going to say that we're recommending the Slate and Peak interrupted version as we're seeing now, on the grounds that parapet will allow the mechanicals to be on the roof and either invisible or barely visible, and that it architecturally has more in harmony with what's across the street. I think those are the main reasons. And then we can certainly also say something about the project in general.
Do you want a
Steve,
motion?
Yeah, we probably should work on that principle.
I so move
I
your
second.
proposal.
Okay, great. So all those in favor, just for the record? Okay, I will be swift with that letter to the planning board. And please, whenever you get to a point where you've got some options, we can, as you say, do this in as informal a way as we're allowed to do. But I would think at a minimum, get us something in time for our March meeting, and then we can, give a formal recommendation.
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you have the property already.
I'll try and get a section done. I can't promise you it'll be a colored rendering, but I'll get you a black and white from the architect for us to look at.
Okay.
And if any of the other members come up with elements they might like to see polished, we're certainly, we're certainly open at this point to modifying, small details here and there if it enhances the sort of the elements here.
I think there's, you've made the case. There's been a lot of thought into it already. I see a number of appropriate local details, and it's a nice looking starting point. Really, it is. Great. Well, thank you very much for giving us a lot of clarity about what the plans and options are, and we will make sure you're copied on this memo.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for your
much.
time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you very
Happy
much.
Valentine's Day. Yep.
Thank you all.
For you all, yes.
Take care.
Okay. Thank
Right.
you. Great. Susan, did you want to comment any further? I think we're going to move to other agenda items, so this will be a chance to get a last word in if you'd like.
I'm just delighted with your input, and I feel that this is being a thoroughly vetted building, and I'm really happy about it. So thanks a lot.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for attending and participating. Honestly, the Leibolds make it easy. I mean, you know, they have, yeah, this isn't the back of an envelope drawing. This is
Right.
really giving us something to look at. So great.
Okay. Thank
Thanks.
you. Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night to you. Thanks. Okay. Everybody,
Let me close a couple of tabs here, if that's okay, unless anyone needs any of these. The drawings, I don't think we've looked at all, basically.
I don't think, do we need to go back at all?
Uh-oh.
I feel pretty clear on what the motion is and what the next
Okay.
step is.
I will open, no, this is last time, the original ones as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, truly, the last one was a very attractive building, but those extra units are a pretty compelling
Mhm.
case indeed. So let's, Val, could you leave up the annual mailing? Why don't we do that? And there does come a question with that, a couple of questions, I think. So everybody, this is the letter that we've been sending out, oh golly, a version of this for 10 years or more. And with everything still hanging in uncertainty, it doesn't seem like the year to redo this, but I think at some point we will want to do this. We keep coming back to the exterior colors question, and I feel like, you know, particularly as we're talking about the new district, this is going to come up undoubtedly from the public. We kind of got cornered into being more concerned with exterior colors than I think we wanted to, but what do we want to say on that second bulleted point? That we do want to vet exterior colors if they're changing, or remain as consultants?
Well, I think in the video, it was demonstrated that sometimes we can have a positive effect on color choices, even just determining that a shade of red is way too bright if you want to paint your house fire truck red as opposed to barn red, and that might have a big impact on the streetscape or the house itself. So I think it might be a good idea to leave the colors in the mailing and have us at least review them, not necessarily approve or disapprove, but if we feel a color is inappropriate, we might just suggest alternatives, and the homeowner might or might not agree with it or go along with our suggestion, but it might be beneficial, I think.
Steve, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, it's a tough thing to specify or be seen as being a body that specifies color or has the power of authority or rejection. You know, I've been looking at a lot of pictures from New Paltz in the 70s online, and I'm like, things are a little different now. And sometimes I think $500,000 houses, $1 million houses, the likelihood of people making serious missteps, or to Camilla's point, you know, bright red front door or something, I don't know. I mean, it's something that could be in our purview. I see that, but it's a, you know, it's an interesting thing to regulate.
Mhm.
That's why I'm leaning more towards like an advisory role, not a regulatory.
Okay, but you would prefer to keep the language as it is,
Um,
and then
yeah, I'm
in
not sure.
practice,
Yeah.
yeah.
Could I throw another element in here? It's on the accompanying document, the brochure. This is village and town. And in speaking with John Orfatelli, they do still require a COA for paint color changes. So I guess my feeling is it might be safer to keep it in here. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly in this document, it's more accurate to keep it in here, at least because it is for sure the town's process. And if we require it, you know, as has been pointed out, it does allow for the consultation. It does allow for suggesting alternatives if need be. And then if Tom, in your purview as chair, feel like there's not a need for a formal COA, we could still, you know, take that action.
Mhm.
Tom, to your, when we've talked about the DRB, we were talking about how can things be streamlined? What aspects of an application could be something that could be green lighted very quickly? Exterior color might be one of those things,
I
as
think
long as
so.
it's not bright red or chartreuse or fuchsia. That's the kind of thing that could likely go through pretty quickly. So upon reflection, yeah, I think leaving it there is fine. But I think just I want to keep in my mind that that there's a lot of variance in original or contemporary or appropriate colors, and hopefully let people do as they want and just keep it as a guardrail from that fuchsia door.
Yep. I find myself more and more using that metaphor of guardrail for the whole project of design review, is just to, maximum freedom and then just minimal restriction where you're just trying to prevent grotesqueries that will bother neighbors and neighborhoods. So this feels like a pretty compelling set of reasons to leave it as it is. We can bark worse than we bite, so to speak. And people, we hope, will be pleasantly surprised how easy it is to get what they want or something very close to it. Does that feel like a decision?
Yes.
Sounds good.
It's also got the advantage of being consistent with the town, and to introduce an inconsistency for no good reason doesn't seem
I
very
mean, the letter is ours, is specifically village, but yes, because the documents go together,
right.
It would create an inconsistency,
Yeah.
cause confusion potentially.
Yeah.
I think that's it for the letter. That was the one
Yep.
item I wanted to make sure we talked about.
The COVID warning, of course, applies.
For now.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to say to leave it.
We'll see where we are in a couple of months.
Yeah. But that statement is accurate for the moment.
Okay. I think that sounds great, Val. And
this one, we have a couple other questions to address.
right. The first one is, Val, architectural heritage was the existing, or is that?
Yes, that is the existing language on this document. I've noticed a couple of places where we use heritage only. One is on our website. I hadn't realized that, but on the village webpage for the HPC, it only says heritage. And the art show page, I believe, also says only heritage, not architectural heritage.
Okay. I am increasingly uncomfortable with heritage on its own. And I think we should just make a practice of specifying architectural heritage, leave the rest to, implication. Camilla, I'm seeing you nodding on that.
Yes, I agree with that.
Steve, how do you feel?
As the word heritage, perhaps architectural history of New Paltz.
Oh, architectural
That's
history.
good, yeah.
I'm a little
I mean,
concerned in this context. I mean, we're not really,
perpetuating. There's no perpetuating of history. Yeah,
no, there isn't. Yeah.
promulgating.
I think that the specific issue I'm worried about, Steve, is I feel like in the last 5 to 10 years, heritage has just gotten kind of co-opted by angry right-wing groups, and I want to be careful not to be seen as a heritage group. So that's why I think if we're going to use the word heritage anywhere, we should be very careful to make sure that we're talking about architectural, not white heritage or something like that could be construed that way.
Absolutely.
So Val, I think that's consensus around architectural. Could you make a note to yourself with no particular rush, but to ask for, we need a couple of changes to the website anyway.
We have more than a couple that need to
Yeah,
happen, yeah.
and I know that that's like pushing water uphill, but this would be one. Anywhere that heritage appears, let's make sure we're talking about architectural.
Yeah. And Camilla, can you take care of the Facebook page?
Yeah,
I think, doesn't the art show Facebook page also use heritage only?
I will look. I'm not sure. I haven't really been on Facebook lately, so
Okay.
I will do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll leave exterior colors here as well.
Yep.
The reference to doors that I added in red, it appears in the letter, but not in this document. And I thought, again, for consistency and because I know it's an important feature,
Yep.
it might make sense to add it here as well.
And absolutely supported. Last time Corey was in on this discussion, he confirmed that doors are part of the envelope.
Okay.
That's perfect. And then obviously approval of paint colors, that line stays.
The interactive map is currently down. There's a security related program issue that the vendor is working on now, and it's uncertain when it will be live again. Could be May, could be after that. So I'm not sure how we should address it. It will certainly be long after this mailing would ordinarily go out. So I don't know if we want to actually take out the link for now and put some kind of a notice in there that it's coming soon or something like that. I'm open to any other suggestions. I hate to lose that feature because it will be back at some point before the next year's mailing goes out. But I'm not quite sure what the best way is to address that.
Could it be as simple, Val, as in line 1, will soon be available again? Something like that.
Or available spring, late spring 2022.
I'm not even sure we can promise that because it's out of
That's
our
what
hands, honestly.
Late spring, late spring, early summer.
Like October.
Well, they'll either go to it and it won't work, or they'll go to it and it does work. And they'll just be as frustrated if it doesn't work, and they'll say, ugh.
There actually is an explanation of why it's down on the village website or the town website. So I mean, we could leave it and just let that explanation be,
I think maybe that's what we do, Val.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time anybody encounters that.
And they'll blame the town.
They'll blame the town.
Oh.
I think the less said, the better. We'll just leave it.
Yeah.
And it's really, maybe, would you like me to send a memo? Would it be to Neil or to John?
I mean, I don't know that a memo is even necessary. This was, it was a security issue that just had to be addressed, and I can't remember the details. I could probably look it up, but there was not an option to not do this, basically.
Okay.
And
but it may also not be a priority unless people make noise about it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that that's the case in this instance. They want it to be back up and running as soon as possible. It's just that the timing is out of their hands and it's kind of a major deal.
Okay. Well, let's just leave it and maybe check in a month
Or so.
or so. Check in monthly. Otherwise, I think that is good.
Okay, I think that was the only changes.
The only other change is one that could be a consequence of our executive session. So maybe just
Okay,
hold that.
okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you for catching all those inconsistencies. Should we go back to item number 10, training and professional development? Val, you probably know more about these specifics than I do.
Well, A and C, I have sent you all notices about, so you basically know as much as I do about these opportunities that are coming up later in the year. Item B, our membership in the NAPC gives us access to, by request, to this listserv that's designed to allow people to network, commissioners, board members, and other preservation professionals to reach each other. I have gone ahead and asked to be added with the HPC@ email address, but we can, by request, get members' individual access as well. So depending on whether you want to go that route or not, whether you want to have things come into your inbox that don't at the moment, I'll just defer to your preferences there. I believe I would be able to share things that I receive. I don't know yet. I haven't received anything, but I'm open to being the solo email on the listserv for the moment and update you as necessary, or if you prefer to be added individually, I can do that as well.
I'd like to hear your experiences, whether it's like 3 messages a day or 33. So please carry on. I'm curious to see, the tenor of the conversation and I'd consider it.
Okay.
But I'll wait to hear back from you.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Camilla, how do you feel?
That sounds like a good plan. I had the feeling that these listservs are, at least through the camp training, that they could be very beneficial since many communities are dealing with similar issues like we do. So it might be a good opportunity to network and share our experiences and maybe get some good advice.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was thinking about that when I was considering this question and followed up with Tom about it, because we had that Newburgh colleague that we had talked about getting in touch with, and it's possible that this listserv will allow us to do that.
Yeah, that would be an immediate benefit. I also think that as we move forward with a downtown district, we may get some help from community or members who have been through something like that and may have some answers or some strategies. So, Val, if you don't mind taking the lead on that, and let's just see how active and helpful the list is, and maybe we'll make a decision after that.
I'm happy to do that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think that then maybe we can go back to C1. Val, I have just, given the last couple of weeks that I've had, I am way behind on where the planning board and ZBA are. Did you notice
And
anything?
when I prepared the agenda, I usually do check both websites and look at minutes and agendas and see what they're actively addressing. And I haven't seen anything new that seemed to be applicable to our reviews, which is why I didn't put anything specific in that item. So I think we're good. And of course, the planning board in particular is really good about reaching out to us when the need arises.
There was a peculiarity that I didn't quite understand. The planning board, I guess, still has not approved the lemon squeeze, but it seems like just a very peculiar thing about ownership. I mean, the work is going forward at quite a pace, actually, in the last. So
I think, as I recall, it has to do with who the county's record shows as the owner of the property, and it's not listed at present as lemon squeeze. So I think there's just some documentation that has to be processed.
I understood something along those lines as well. Yeah. Okay, good. I think that then we should, while we're still in public meeting, maybe look at the open letter and proposed map. And I'm very eager to hear any suggestions for improvement. I've already thought of one thing that should be mentioned that I forgot, but why don't we start with Steve or Camilla? I'm really, as much as proofreading, I'm interested in whether you think the tone is the right tone, is the approach the right approach?
I think so. I really liked your touch with the letter. I mean, it's not very forceful, yet has a sense of urgency to it, which I think it's very important to convey that. I would like to add maybe in the first paragraph to protect the character and architectural distinctiveness of the places which they live.
Character and architectural distinctiveness. Got it.
I think maybe people respond to that because everyone thinks that New Paltz has a unique character, regardless of architecture. Maybe if we just mention architectural distinctiveness, they might associate that with just, I don't know, just with Huguenot Street or
yeah.
certain areas.
Camilla, would you want local character?
Yes, sure.
That for some reason just feels like the phrase.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Steve, are you in favor of that change?
Yes, I think that works. I think the tone is very good. You just highlight where gaps are in the community, and then it's like, this is what we can do. So I think it strikes it, it's not confrontational. It's not, it's just like, these are some gaps in how things are organized in this community in regarding preservation.
And I really like the fact that you mentioned the lack of village planner and town planner, because really without a planner, how are we going to make such important decisions that could affect or will affect the village for, I don't know, decades?
Right, it's the guardrail thing again. It's like, in the absence of a town planner or a village planner, then it's like, it's not a free-for-all. There's a lot of regulation, but this is one entity that could be a guardrail.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that didn't make its way into this letter, and it doesn't belong here, but as a talking point, I found myself saying many times, there's no villain here. It's not like they're not doing their job. It's not like somebody's trying to pull something here. It's that there are these gaps in our process. And there are these things like the comprehensive master plan, which is way out of date, and we've just never found the money or will. I don't even know what the problem is, but it's basically a document from 1994. So, as I feel like, in the future we'll be called upon to explain this is something that I keep coming back to, that everybody's doing their best, but we just need to change the structures so that there is a, a chance of putting up those guardrails. Yeah. Any other suggestions? The one thing that I forgot to mention is that, and I guess I forgot to mention it because I'm not really current with where things are now, but basically you're never going to get a grant from the state if you're not landmarked. And I just need to figure out a way to say that without overpromising that, as soon as you're landmarked, you start to get grants. It's not that at all. But I mean, this actually is probably going to take a call or an email up to Albany to figure out how to phrase that. But I think I'm right that, that's the first question that gets asked about on grant applications. So I think that probably should go under the property owner's paragraph on page 2. Val, did you see anything that strikes you as wrong or needing to be improved?
Certainly nothing that strikes me as wrong, no. And honestly, I read it very quickly last night, late. So I do want to spend a little bit more time looking it over. But no, nothing that popped out as really needing to be addressed urgently.
Okay. I mean, this is probably also going to get amended by the mayor. I didn't hear back from Tim, but if it's going out with his name under it, I'm sure he's going to want input.
Sure.
I think this answers very well. I mean, that's like the first thing that's going to come to people's minds is, what does it mean for me, the property owner? And
yeah,
there you give it. This is what your process is.
Yeah.
Okay, this is bite-sized. This is manageable. This is okay. I see for the greater good how this works.
Right. I feel like, Steve, some people get the greater good argument and some will never. Whatever argument you bring to bear on the greater good argument, they're just people who don't see it that way, and you're never going to get through.
No. So you do it for the greater good and hope that people see it.
Yeah. One of the things that I did put down in that paragraph at the top is to be a little more explicit. Sorry, the one that you had.
Okay, on the page, this page. Okay.
Yeah. In the spirit of streamlining what will be more future work, I think we can get a lot less interested in what happens behind a house hidden from public view. I mean, even to the point of creating some kind of, exemption. I don't know if it should be an exemption for everything, but I feel like we've spent a lot of time with people's back decks that nobody's ever going to see, the hot tub the other month. I just feel like if our caseload increases, we just can't be spending time on things like that nobody's going to see. So I just kind of, hinted that the front porch is more consequential than a rear deck. We're really interested in what faces the public.
I think that's very good. It gives people an idea of scale and proportion, what is important to HPC and the design review board, and less important in the back. We have a little more flexibility. Okay, that works. It's like we'll work harder, read the manual on split systems, put things in the back, emphasize how pretty it can be in the front.
Yeah.
But then again, there's that greater good thing. But if
Right.
it's in their own interests to have things in the backyard, then it works.
Right. And you hope you get through that it's also in their own interest not to create a property that's going to be hard to sell or ugly to buyers or put up curb appeal problems or whatever it might be. Okay, well, if nobody has anything else, I think I will take those suggestions to Hart and send it on to the mayor with the idea that it's ready as far as we're concerned, and then see what he wants to amend.
Is there any need to add character to that closing paragraph in any way?
Well, when I printed my own version, I kind of put it in there, but I don't know if we
I
need
think
to
that-
put it ourselves or not.
I think that sounds good. I would agree.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with, I mean, it makes it consistent with what we're sending to Huguenot Street, that's for sure.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. I have one other idea. I have a neighbor who's a professional town planner, and he might have some ideas, or he might see red flags that we're not seeing. Is everybody comfortable if I just informally run it by him at the draft stage?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. If he's willing to give it a look, I think that would be worth it. Okay. Good. Steve, you don't have high level mapping skills, do you?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
You saw the complete mess that I made of the maps.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have no skill at all.
Okay, well, I don't either, and yet I managed to get through. I think it's probably adequate for what we need, but it's definitely not that attractive. So this is the original 2009 district. The next one adds red lines to that district and basically just, pulls Elting into it, pulls Wirtz into it, and the top part of Plattekill, and then Main Street. So unless somebody feels like this is just too embarrassing to share, then we can just apologize.
I don't think apologies are necessary.
No,
I
I
think it
don't
looks
either.
fine.
Look fine to me.
You're very generous.
It's a contrasting color. It looks fine, and it conveys exactly what we would need to convey, that it's not the entire downtown and it's this portion of it.
Yeah. I feel like that stretch of Plattekill, which did come up, I think, since our last meeting, and I want to apologize for just kind of running ahead with it. But Tim kind of raised it, or we were talking, and he I think said, well, why not? And I think it just makes a lot more sense. It connects, it's a way to connect Elting rather than have it just this weird standalone thing. And that row of houses is really a pretty significant row of houses. And the people that I've been able to talk to, it's not everybody on the street, but they are in favor. They see the point. Okay.
And even a few years ago, remember we were talking about having that section of Plattekill somehow designated because of the houses there. So yeah, it makes good sense to me.
Yeah, objectively, it's one of the nicest stretches. Okay, that sounds good. I think the other maps are really just, that's the Google map version. And then, this was the map I was really proud of. It is
I
actually,
like this too.
I think it's adequate. Okay, well, I think that, and then there's one more that shows the historic downtown. And basically what I was trying to capture there is that we're, pretty much capturing what New Paltz was, at least commercial New Paltz was, commercial and a lot of residential New Paltz was in 1875. And that seems to be a strength as well. So if everybody's comfortable, I'm going to just cruise ahead with sharing all this with the village board. I will continue to do outreach where I can to try to explain the logic of this to people. And then once the village board is open for public comment, I will really hope that some of these people will comment publicly and we can, kind of get a critical mass of people speaking in favor, in anticipation that there probably will be some people who won't speak in favor or will speak against it. Sound good? Does anybody have a question or a comment or a suggestion around this general idea of moving this forward as efficiently as we can?
Oh, it's a great idea. We should do it. I was wondering, Tom, once the time comes when the letter is approved by Tim as well, should I put it up on the HPC Facebook page? Because usually people maybe are more inclined to comment on it there, perhaps.
That's
Yeah.
great. And if it's on Facebook, then it can get shared under the New Paltz community group, and
Oh, gosh.
I'm happy to spread it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
I
great.
want to get the New Paltz community group once it goes up. I'm
Well,
afraid what might happen.
once it's out, it's out.
And how are we
but,
to respond, for example, on Facebook? Because I'm afraid that
That's true.
That's
To release information like that and not have people have an avenue to respond, either email or an upcoming event, or stay tuned.
Maybe we make sure that the letter includes a mention that a public hearing is open. I mean, really, that's the venue. That's the appropriate venue once the village board decides to open a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
That gives
make
people
sense?
an idea, a way to channel their interest in action.
Yeah. Yeah. So Camilla, I would say hold off until
sure, that's fine.
everything's in order.
Everything
But
is
then, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that was very much the spirit of what Tim was saying, is that this is going to be an open letter to the community, so it should go out in as many ways as we can. Okay. Everybody, I think that leaves only item number 9, which is prioritizing initiatives. And I think implicitly we've just talked about the big initiative for the year, which is to move this along. I think the other initiative will come up under executive session, but is there anything else you're feeling we should be explicitly talking about as a priority?
I can't think of anything.
Steve, you're good?
I think design review board is it biggest
Yeah,
one, but I mean, we've got many other smaller projects, but I think we've got our priorities fairly straight.
I feel like that is the big one. I mean, what's sort of hiding under number 9 is this completely stalled oral history idea, which I still like. I think it's a great idea. But, with a global pandemic still going on, it's just not the time to start thinking about, one-on-one interviews over a single microphone. It's just like, no. The other thing somebody was telling me, in fact, the fellow that I just mentioned, the town planner, knows a lot about the post-war construction in the village, about, the shelter houses and things like that. And I thought it would be cool, maybe next academic year, to see if we could get a student intern who might want to write up a couple of brochures that we could just have that would explain some of the later waves of development in the village, just do this in a very careful documentary way, make sure that everything's factual. But that feels like all post-COVID stuff to me, and definitely post-design review board stuff. So if everybody's comfortable, let's table that for several months.
Can I just add something? Maybe it would be good to have our own preservation plan, kind of like a master plan type document, just to outline our.
I think that would be great, Camilla.
And it could definitely tie in with the design review role that we might have, and just
Yeah.
identify.
Camilla, I really agree. I wholeheartedly agree about that. And I think maybe we get the review board established and then start thinking about long and short-term goals. I mean, I'll just share one that's been on my mind for some time, which is I think that maybe we could make a little more noise about mandatory maintenance on Main Street. I think some of those buildings really are not maintained, and I think we're going to get to a point where landlords say, oh, it's rotting anyway, pull it off, and we start losing cornices or whatever it might be through neglect. And that's a simple, it's never simple, but initially a simple matter of just maybe having a meeting with the building inspector and see if there are grounds for urging or compelling people to be a little more careful about maintenance.
That works. Because I think Corey has often said, or I've talked to him, and he's like, we need to hear something. We need not a complaint per se, but we need an observation that something is amiss.
Yeah.
And from that, he can at times act. Sometimes it doesn't rise to the level of being of the interest of the building department, but your point about losing a cornice, and it's like, then it's gone. So,
right.
This is our purview.
Yeah, it is our purview. And if we get the district, then we actually have teeth, don't we? Val, let's put that topic, well, let's put it on the March agenda. I'm not sure we'll be there. I also sort of feel like I'd rather talk about that around a table rather than Zoom, but
The master plan idea. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, kind of HPC master plan. Let's just kind of name it that.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. Everybody, I think the only other thing is to enter executive session if there's nothing else for the public. Okay, so what that's going to mean is we will Val, you're able to block people from, so we will close off the YouTube.
I can stop the live stream.
Live stream stops.
Well, you need a motion. I move.
Yeah, we'll have to do this all by
session.
motion. I'm just thinking of the technicalities of.
Yeah, I don't think I can, I can't stop Zoom, and we don't have waiting rooms, breakout rooms, but I can keep tabs on the participants list. Right now, it's just the 4 of us.
Okay.
But I can certainly, watch that. I'm not sure that there's anything else I can do. I'm just not savvy enough about this platform.
Okay. Well, let's hope that we can do that then. So Steve's right. We would need a motion to go into executive session, but with the understanding that the meeting will adjourn after that executive session. We won't actually come out of it because we're going to be stopping the YouTube broadcast. So I guess the motion would be to close the public portion of the meeting, continue in executive session, and close the meeting at the end of that session.
I so move.
I second.
All those in favor? Okay.
Aye.
All right.
We're doing our best with